With meditation, it's best to keep it simple. As I mentioned earlier, if you can just sit and flow into a meditative experience, that is what is best to do. You don't have to complicate the process with a lot of ritual or practice of a variety of meditation techniques. It is useful to know effective meditation techniques so that you can use them when you need them. But if you can just simply meditate and go in easily and spontaneously, that is best. Meditation, I'll define it first. Meditation is contemplation, examination, looking at your essence of being with expectation of discovery. That is my definition of meditation. Now I know many people practice forms of meditation in order to elicit relaxation, calm the mind, strengthen the body's immune system, manage stress, and so on. So for all of these purposes, meditation is useful. But I emphasize for people on a spiritual path that they meditate to be self-knowing and to realize the truth of what they are and to realize the truth of what I call ultimate reality, which is commonly referred to as God by many people. So I recommend that when we meditate, we aspire to directly, without the medium of mind or even of intellect or intuition or senses, that we meditate to experience directly our pure essence of being. Our essence is pure because it is a unit of the pure essence of ultimate reality, and the only reality there is, the one reality. And because we are a unit of that reality, we can experience what we are. And so really the positive realizations that we have when we meditate, and at other times realizations can emerge when we're not meditating, and we don't have to be always sitting in order to experience awakening, soul awakening, and realizations. But these events of emergence of innate knowledge and innate capacities are really events of self-revelation. So I emphasize that when we are intent on self-discovery and discovery of ultimate reality, what is the truth about ourselves and it, that really what we are about is aspiring to experience the emergence or the coming forth from within us, that knowledge which has always been there of what we are and of ultimate reality. So if we can meditate spontaneously, just sit and let the process occur, this is very, very beneficial, highly recommended. But if when we sit to meditate, we are too much involved with random thought processes and shifting moods, and then we can use a form of practice to focus attention and get past those obstacles to concentration. And for many people, especially those who have a devotional temperament or a religious temperament, prayer can be a prelude to meditation. And it doesn't really matter to what form or concept of God to which one prays. There is an ultimate reality that is what it is, but if any concept other than that is just that, a concept, an imagined idea, But to whatever form of that reality you pray is all right, because eventually they're going to go beyond forms anyway. But or you can simply acknowledge that ultimate reality, omnipresent, right where you are, and just aspire to know it clearly and completely, to know your true nature clearly and completely, and that can be your prayer without words, just aspiration to be self-realized and God-realized. But however you pray, whether you pray with words or whether you do it audibly or mentally or just with what some have called the heart's sincere desire, the sincere desire of your essence to know and to be self-realized, you do that until then you get to the stage where you stop doing it and you rest and you wait. And that is the key, resting and waiting in the silence, staying very alert, very attentive to see what will occur, to see what will emerge from within you. Not what will be given to you from the outside, but to see what will emerge from within you. Sit in the deep silence, waiting and watching. So that is the prayerful approach, and it is very effective for those who want to do it that way. Or you can use the affirmative prayer form. And here now, when we use an affirmation, we are not endeavoring to condition the subconscious level of our mind or to convince ourselves that what we affirm is true. We take a statement that is true, and we audibly or mentally affirm, and that is declare, and we do it with intention. We're very alert about when we are involved in this process, and eventually we're not audibly or mentally affirming, but we are just knowing, and then we're waiting for that shift of viewpoint, that change that can occur, during which we are able to experience that which we affirmed. We actually want to experience it. We don't want to just affirm and then afterwards say, well, I hope that works. We want to affirm to the place of experience, if at all possible. And that is what Paramahansa Yogananda referred to as superconscious affirmation. You can affirm what is true of you. I am a flawless unit of the pure essence of ultimate reality, or the radiant purity of my essence of being continuously illumines my mind and consciousness, or simply I am pure consciousness. You have an affirmation of you can have your own affirmation, you don't have to use anyone else's. And as you affirm, you contemplate what you are affirming. And after a while you stop talking audibly and mentally, and then just give yourself to that idea, and with the aspiration, gentle aspiration, not forcible, not demanding, gentle aspiration to actually experience the truth of what you affirmed, so that you experience, I am that. And then you have that experience, you recognize it for what it is, and it is very familiar. So there is an affirmative approach to meditation. Remember, just as with prayer, eventually you leave off the talking and you abide in the silence, still alert and attentive, waiting for that shift of viewpoint so that you can actually experience that which you affirmed. Or, as I mentioned earlier this morning, when we were meditating for a few minutes, you can just observe the natural process of breathing. Everyone breathes, just observe the process. You're there, let the body breathe, observe it. Watch it when it comes in, watch it when it goes out, that's all. because it gives your attention something to focus on so that you're not going to be involved, overly at least, with your random thoughts and your shifting moods. You are in present time awareness, experiencing the natural sequences of inhalation and exhalation, and being watchful to observe those occasions of natural pause, which will occur from time to time, when you don't inhale. You're not suppressing the urge to breathe, but there is a natural pause. And during that interval of natural pause, there will be a natural pause between streams of thoughts that flow in your mind. And you'll have the opportunity to experience, if only for a few moments, thought-free, clear awareness in the moment. Thought-free, clear awareness. And then as you do this, you have the opportunity to experience what it is like to be there. All right? Or if you want to, when you're watching the breathing, if you need something else to keep your attention more completely involved, something else to do, you can add a mantra, a word or a word phrase to the process. Any word or word phrase will do. It doesn't have to be Sanskrit. It can be any language, your native language, mostly English for folks here, but if your native language is German or Italian or some other language, and you want to use a mantra in your own language, it's all right. If you want to use a Sanskrit mantra, use Om. Om, mentally say Om when you breathe in, Om when you breathe out, that's all. Or if you want to say Om when you breathe in and God when you breathe out. Some people like to do that. Or if you want to use a mantra that doesn't have a meaning, then Hong when you breathe in, Saw when you breathe out. Or So when you breathe in, Hum when you breathe out. In some yoga texts I read where Soham can also mean I am that, meaning I am that pure consciousness, I am the absolute, I am that pure consciousness. But it's not necessary to have any concepts associated with the mantra. It is simply a word or a word phrase that you use to focus your attention more completely, that's all. And you stay with it. And if that isn't sufficient to keep you totally involved, if you can still daydream and mentally wander while you are watching the breath and chanting your mantra, then you can keep track of the process on your fingers or on your prayer beads. But if you don't have prayer beads, on your fingers, and when you first inhalation and exhalation, you put your finger there, and the second round inhalation, exhalation, put your finger there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, and there, so forth. And now you have plenty to keep you occupied. Then finally, leave off this finger business and just pay attention to the breathing and your mantra, if you're using a mantra. Then eventually leave off the mantra and the breathing and just be still in the moment. It should conclude there, in that absolute stillness. That's the only point of the meditation technique, to get you to that place of absolute thought-free, conscious stillness. Ordinarily, during the course of the day, as you are aware, our thoughts and our emotions are activated by impulses that arise from subliminal levels of consciousness. So our thoughts are constantly stirred and our emotions stirred. Well, when we meditate, we can get to the stage where the thoughts and emotions are settled, and even the subliminal impulses that activate thoughts and emotions stop. They become quiet. And when they are quiet, then our emotions are settled, our thoughts are settled. But we are clear. We are not in a funky subconscious state, and we are not. But we are very alert in the moment. So this is one reason why we have these techniques to use, because we want to get to the place where we are our mind and our emotions are not stirred by these impulses that arise from deeper levels of consciousness. All right, so you can use a mantra if you want to, associated with breath awareness, or you can use a more intentional form of pranayama. Pranayama is really defined by yogis as practice which results in extension of inhalation, exhalation, and those natural pauses that occur. So many people already know the alternate nostril breathing pranayama, which when practiced contributes to coherence or harmonious interactions between the activities of the left and right hemispheres of the brain, which produces an ideal brain state for meditation. And another form of meditation, when you are sitting there, especially for an extended practice session, and you want to do something else to refresh your practice, is you can use imagination to imagine omnipresence, for instance. Imagine that your consciousness is expanded. Now, we want to remember that the ideal of meditation practice is to get to the place where we are superconscious and have a transcendent realization. But it's all right to use imagination in the early stages, because many people are feel so confined by their small sense of self identity that it's difficult for them to get beyond that. So by using imagination, imagining how it might be to be more expanded, more larger and free, and even omnipresent, that's an exercise in imagination, to be sure, but that can be helpful to expanding our consciousness, and at least making us receptive to having actual experiences of expanded consciousness. So it's all right to use imagination sometimes. Imagine what it would be like to be enlightened, if you have an idea of what it's like to be enlightened, if you've thought about it or read about it or have had episodes of transcendence. Imagine that you are enlightened, and don't fool yourself into thinking that you are when you're not, but you imagine so that you give yourself the opportunity to prepare your mind and your consciousness to actually experience complete awakening of your essence of being. So you can do that for a while. Also, you can engage in analytical meditative contemplation, and this again is useful for extended meditation sessions. So say you're sitting there for 35, 40 minutes or so, and you've run through the preliminary practices, and you've had your time of resting in clarity of awareness and a sense of fulfillment and oneness consciousness, hopefully, and you want to sit longer. All right, then if you want to, you can practice a form of analytical contemplative meditation. Say you've been thinking about, reading about, hearing about categories of cosmic manifestation, and you have a somewhat of intellectual grasp of the processes, but there are some areas that are not completely comprehended by you. Or you've been thinking about how units of the pure essence of ultimate reality are individualized, and you've read about it, heard about it, thought about it, but you're not completely clear on how that occurs, how the interaction between the purity of the expressive field of ultimate reality and its initial manifestation of Om with characteristics which we call the primordial field, how the interaction between those two result in the individualization of units of the pure essence of ultimate reality. You have maybe somewhat of a mental picture of that, but it's not really completely understood or known. All right, bring that theme up or that subject up before your mind's eye and look at it and contemplate it. And by contemplation, in this instance, I don't mean vigorously think about it. Just bring it up there and look at it, remembering that contemplation can be looking at or examining something with expectation of discovery. So bring that up in front of your mind's eye and look at it with the gentle desire to know, want to know the truth about it. Just look at it and be open to the possibility of insight, of discovery, of the emergence of innate knowledge. You see, you already know all about this at a deeper level of your being, but perhaps you don't always have conscious access to that knowledge. Well, when you contemplate that which you want to know with expectation of knowing, of discovery, there's that possibility that you can elicit or bring forth that innate knowledge that is already there. And then you recognize it, and you say, aha, that's how it is. Now I see. And it may be the next day you completely forget what you saw. But you can go back at it again until it's there, and you know it. It's realization. It's not a belief. It's not something that you've heard, that you've accepted as a possibility. It's something that you have realized. You have actually experienced it. You have direct knowledge of it, and that is liberating. It is the direct knowledge of what we are and of ultimate reality that is liberating. It is not just knowing about it or hearing about it and or having a teacher who talks about it very nicely. It's actually having that knowledge, that knowing really, for ourselves. That is liberating. So any matter that you want to comprehend that you don't yet fully comprehend, you can bring it up there in front of your mind's eye and look at it. Again, with calm examination, with expectation of discovery. That means you're going to be very alert, very attentive. You're not going to be daydreaming. Be right there looking at it. And it may be you'll do that several times for days, weeks, and not have any great realizations. But eventually you will have realization. And it may be that your realization or your discovery will not occur when you are sitting there contemplating. It may be afterwards when you're relaxed, doing some routine thing, suddenly pops into your consciousness. My God, that's how it is. Now I see. Remember, you don't have to be sitting there like this all the time to be enlightened. Because enlightenment is a matter of the coming forth of your innate knowledge of yourself and ultimate reality. And that can happen anytime, not just when you're sitting there in subjective meditation, in a form of subjective meditation practice. In fact, many people, when they meditate, actually become so inward turned, so introspective, and involved with the subconscious, that they don't become superconscious. Now remember, when you meditate, you want to meditate superconsciously, or at least you want to get to the place where you can meditate superconsciously. If you're a beginning meditator, you probably won't meditate superconsciously right away. But if you persist in the right way, eventually you will be superconscious. You will be able to get to that, what some call the peak experience of clarity of awareness, where you just rest there for a while in that clear, knowing, fulfilled experience. And after that, more insights emerge, But some people meditate and they go down into the into the subconscious layers of the mind, and that's not useful. Or some people, when they meditate, are inclined to go to sleep, either because they're sleep deprived, haven't had enough sleep, or because by habit, whenever they relax and close their eyes, they go to sleep. Or perhaps they've had experience with self-hypnosis, or they've been a hypnotic subject. Again, and when they go within, they go down into the subconscious, and they come out of that practice session saying, oh, I feel ever so relaxed. And you ask, well, what occurred during that interval? Oh, I don't remember. Have no memory. If you have no memory of what occurred when you meditated, you were not conscious. And that is not useful. It may be relaxing, but so is taking a nap, or but that is not spiritually enlightening if you meditate and then go into a state when you come out of it, you have no memory of what occurred. So you want to stay alert when you meditate. That's important, to stay alert. Not go into a subconscious state, or go into a state of identification with a pleasant mood, or with some other perception that you might have when you are internalized. Perhaps some people have a perception of light, a mellow light that they seem to see inside when their eyes are closed. Or they have a sensation of deep peace, or even joyousness, minor ecstasy, and a sense of wholeness consciousness, of oneness with the larger reality. But their awareness is not clear. But they hang out there at that one of those levels because it's very peaceful and stabilizing, but they don't go beyond it. And so the years pass, and their understanding of themselves and of higher realities does not improve. They have that ability to go into a subjective state that's pleasant or comfortable, but it is not illuminating. It does not clarify awareness. It does not result in self-realization. And realization is defined as direct experience of something along with knowledge of it. So when we say self-realization, we mean direct experience along with accurate knowledge of our essence of being. Conscious, direct experience along with accurate knowledge of our essence of being. That is what we call, what I mean by self-realization, using the term self with an uppercase to indicate our essence, our true nature. So when we are self-realized, we are self-knowing. We have that experience along with knowledge of what we are, no doubt about it. God realization then would be experience along with accurate knowledge of this ultimate reality, which is possible. Now, some will say, oh, it's not possible to know everything about that ultimate reality. Well, of course it is. Mystics through the ages have said so. And also intuitively, we know so, that it's true. We know it must be so, that we can have that conscious knowing. Why? Because we are units of the pure essence of that reality. So therefore, all knowledge of it is within us. So when it emerges, then we are self and God, or ultimate reality, realized. We are spiritually enlightened. To be enlightened means to have knowledge of something. Sometimes in regard to mundane matters, we say, oh, I'm enlightened about that now, you inform me, or I've discovered for myself what is so about it, I'm enlightened about that. Spiritual enlightenment is having knowledge, not about, but having knowledge of that ultimate reality, ourselves as we are, and ultimate reality as it is. That is spiritual enlightenment. And when that is complete, then it is permanent. It remains. We don't wake up to a degree and then go to sleep. Now, until then, sometimes we can have our occasions of insight and discovery and then fall back into former states of consciousness. and say, I had the memory of it, I had the experience of it, but I lost it. It didn't stay. Well, we want to have the experience, and we want it to be there, permanent, as it is. We want to be completely spiritually enlightened. That means, if we are completely spiritually enlightened, it means that we no longer have in our minds or consciousness any delusions, any erroneous or false beliefs or notions or ideas. They don't exist anymore. And we have no more illusions, no more mistaken perceptions. Whatever we perceive with accuracy. We see things as they are. We know the truth as it is. So that is liberation of consciousness, permanent liberation of consciousness. Before permanent liberation of consciousness, there can be qualified liberation of consciousness. That is, we can be self-knowing and God-knowing, and then fall back at times a little bit into our conditioned states of consciousness, and also still have some subconscious conditionings or influences that are perhaps troublesome in a minor way, or even a major way, or a few ideas that are unrealistic. We can turn our attention inward or upward or to in the direction of transcendence and rise above it, come back to ordinary awareness, and still have these influences in our mind, and so we are not completely free. That level or stage of spiritual awakening in Sanskrit is called Jivan Mukta, living free. You are in the body, you are free, you are self-realized, you are free when you are fully awake, but you still have some residual stuff in the subconscious that has to be cleaned out. You want to get it all cleaned out, and so that you are completely enlightened. Completely, your mind and your consciousness is completely pure. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutra, toward the end of his treatise, when he is explaining liberation of consciousness, wrote, when the awareness of the meditator is as pure as his or her essence, then that is liberation. So when your awareness is as pure as your essence, that is liberation. You can experience your pure essence, but then again identify with your modifications of your mind and the conditionings in your subconscious, which are still influential. And understanding this helps us to understand other people. We don't want to be judgmental, but it's well to be able to understand why people do what they do and why they are as they are. And there are some enlightened people who are spiritually enlightened people, who are obviously enlightened to a degree, but who still have some traditional ideas that they haven't gotten rid of yet. And so I don't think it's necessary for us to be concerned about what others are doing on their awakening path. Mainly we should be concerned about ourselves. How are we doing on our awakening path? Are we waking up? Are we intent on being fully spiritually enlightened in this current incarnation? And this is what I emphasize, that we have this as the ideal, this ideal of being completely spiritually awake in this current incarnation, in the time that we have and the years remaining. And I think thinking about these matters could really should inspire us, and really should motivate us to get with it, to do what we have to do, clean up our act. If our act needs to be cleaned up, what do we need to do in the time that we have yet in this current incarnation to be fully awake? And none of this business of, well, if I don't make it this time, I'll make it next time. You don't know about the next time. You're here now. You don't know about the hereafter. Other people say there is life where consciousness continues into other realms, but that is their assertion, or perhaps even the declaration of their experience. But their declaration doesn't help us. We've got to have our own knowledge, our own realization. That's the important thing. I remember when I was with Paramahansa Yogananda back in the early 1950s, and he constantly encouraged me and others who could hear what he was saying. He constantly encouraged me to, as he put it, go all the way in this incarnation. That is, wake up completely. He used to say, don't go halfway, or 3/4 of the way, or almost to the end, and then become distracted, but go all the way. That is, wake up completely. And get on with it and get the job done this time. On another occasion, I remember when he had reprimanded one of my brother disciples about some minor matter, and then others were present, and then he said, included all of us in his comment, he said, I only do these things because I want you to be as strong as I am, meaning I want you to be like I am in understanding, in realization. And that's the guru's function. The word guru means teacher. And in the yogic tradition, there are 3 classifications of gurus or teachers. One is called the reminder. The person, can be man or woman, who is sufficiently knowledgeable to remind us of the facts of life. You are a spiritual being. There is one reality. The one reality has a pure aspect, an absolute aspect, and an aspect with attributes that produce universes and so forth. And this is the way to clarify your awareness and to focus your attention and to awaken to self-realization. This is the person who is reminding us of what we may already know at a deeper level. The other category is the guru or teacher who is sufficiently spiritually awakened, whose vital forces are awakened and circulating, that in that person's presence we can be awakened to a degree, according to our receptivity. So that guru is called an awakener. And then third classification or order of gurus or teachers is the bestower of liberation, the one who is so fully spiritually awake and knowledgeable regarding the processes of awakening that he or she can guide us on our awakening path through liberation of consciousness. And thankfully for me and others, Paramahansa Yogananda had all of those characteristics. He was a good teacher, a good reminder of the facts of life. In his presence, if you were receptive, you could experience the enlivening of your own soul forces, your energies. And also, if you were could hear what he had to say and really listened carefully, he could show you. He could, and also, if you were with him, attuned to his mind and consciousness, he could show you how to get through the subtle levels of consciousness to the clear states and to liberation. On one occasion, when he was talking with some of the fellows, brother disciples, he said something, and someone said, "Oh, I understand that now." And he said, "It pleases me when you understand what I say. It pleases me even more when you understand without my having to say it." So there is this tradition among yogis And in other cultures, among mystics, there's this tradition of wordless transmission of truth or knowledge. It's just, and it can be sudden transmission. But whenever I was with Paramahansa Yogananda, I always experienced a sense of omnipresence, and I felt that he was grounded in something large and big and real. And when I was with him, I felt that. I was aware of it. And later, when I learned to be mentally and spiritually in harmony with him, even when I was not with him, in his physical presence, I was aware of that sense of omnipresence, the wholeness, the oneness that is. And that is something that is apprehended and as well as experienced. But it's difficult to explain to someone who hasn't experienced it. But it is very real. This one reality is omnipresent, therefore it is right where we are right now. Must be. It is omnipresent and everywhere present. So wherever we are, it is in fullness, and is all around us and through us, and its pure essence is individualized as us, and we can get a handle on this intellectually, and that's helpful to have that intellectual grasp of the facts of life, but it's much better to actually have that experience, that apprehension, that awareness of it, and we can have that too. And just as important as meditation is fervent aspiration to be fully spiritually awake, and devotion or dedication to our worthwhile spiritual path. This is very important. I remember Paramahansa Yogananda saying on one occasion at a public gathering, devotion to God, meaning devotion to the ideal of having that complete realization. Devotion to God is more important than meditation practice and practice of meditation techniques. But together they are an unbeatable combination. There are many people who have devotion, and they aspire, and they are sincere and fervent, but they are so restless and unsettled that they aren't able to concentrate and relax and surrender and give themselves to this larger reality and experience a transformation or adjustment of viewpoint and so on. They could benefit from meditation practice, learning how to calm the mind and settle the emotions and focus attention. And then there are others who are so involved with mechanical practice of meditation that they could use a shot of devotion. That would be helpful. Many people who meditate are inclined to think that knowledge and practice of certain techniques is going to do the job for them. And it doesn't. Practice of some techniques can result in physiological and psychological changes, and even occasional breakthroughs in consciousness. But that aspiration, that fervent aspiration to be self-realized, is a powerful transformational influence, and it also will keep us steady on our spiritual practice path. Spiritual path is really a course of actions, that effective course of actions that we use to clarify our mind and awareness and encourage the coming forth of our innate qualities, capacities, and knowledge. But some people practice for a while with high resolve, and then the momentum slows down, and they become inconsistent in practice, or procrastinate, or even lazy, or even give up and say, well, it's not working. I've done this for 2 years now. I've had some pleasant experiences, but I'm not enlightened yet. Forget it, I'll go back to the Catholic Church, or I'll join this other group, or I'll try something else and chant another kind of mantra. Maybe I'll become a Buddhist, and so on. And it doesn't work. But if you are yearning, aspiring to be fully awake, and you have that vision of possibilities, that awareness of possibilities in the forefront of your consciousness, then you're going to be more steadfast on your right living and your spiritual practice path. And you'll do it faithfully, and just keep going in the right direction, in the right way. So that's important. Persistence in the right way, not just persistence in the wrong way. That's not helpful. But persistence in the right way, that is very important. Just stay with it in the right way. And if we do that, then eventually the result has to be ideal. Has to be. So, and our spiritual awakening path is a path of aloneness. It's pleasant to have friends who share our philosophical views, and maybe even some of our meditation sessions. And it's nice to have compatible relationships. But when it comes right down to it, it is a way of aloneness. No one else can make our discoveries for us. No one else can do for us what we have to do for ourselves. So even the enlightened teachers can't do for us what we have to do for ourselves. I remember I was once walking with Paramahansa Yogananda at his desert retreat in 29 Palms, California, out on the high desert, Mojave Desert. The last 3 or 4 years of his earth life, he lived most of the time out there in the desert, purposely withdrew from organizational affairs so he could devote himself to finishing up some of his writing obligations that he had established for himself, commentary on the Bhagavad Gita and other texts. Also, he wanted to give the people who were going to continue the administration of the organization the opportunity to get along without him. He was available by telephone, but he wasn't available for them to knock on his door whenever a little problem arose regarding running the organization. And but I used to go out there and visit him every 2 months. And he sent me to Phoenix. When I first went to him in 1949, Christmas time, I was there only 3 months at headquarters approximately, and he sent me to Arizona. It was the greatest blessing for me because he said, come back to see me every 2 months, which I did for the next 2 years. But it was the greatest blessing because I was all alone over there with one other monk who was a good role model and minded his business and let me mind mine, and it was marvelous. I didn't have to put up with any community business, just the two of us. I had my duties, he had his duties, he was the senior monk, and and I had plenty of time to meditate and be alone and contemplate. And every 2 months went back to California and had a few days where Yogananda was and had a chance to be with him privately. So, and then he would send me back to Arizona. On one occasion we were walking around his property, and this was early in 1950. I'd only been with him a few months at this time. And as we walked, he was just talking, and he said, earlier in 1949, during my final 3 or 4 months of high school, I had rheumatic fever and I was confined to bed for 5 months. And then I got well, and then that fall I went to California. But we were walking and around the property, and he just said it. I just came out with it. Without any prelude or any prior discussion. He said, you almost died last year, but your love for God pulled you through. And you have a new life now, and you must make the most of it. And he said, when you came to me, and I'll explain what he meant when he said when I quote him. He said, when you came to me, God took 50% of your karma. A guru will take 25%, and you have 25% to work out yourself. Now, he didn't mean to be specific as to percentages. That was just a way of explaining something. That when we get on the right track, find our dharma, our right way in life, and get on it, we avoid a lot of future discomfort and trouble. That we clear the decks of a lot of problems right then when we're on the right course in life. We're still going to make a few mistakes and have a few side trips. That's my observation anyway, my experience. But at least you're on the right track and you know it. And then so that's what he meant by God takes 50%. In other words, you don't have to go through a lot of stuff you would have otherwise gone through because you're on the right track now. And then 25%, these are just numbers he was just putting out there. It is true, by association with a spiritually enlightened person, their wise words, their guidance, if you take it, if you hear it and you follow what they say for your own good, and their consciousness which they share with you, and their pure energy which they share with you, which awakens your own, that can be very helpful. But still, we've got some stuff to do ourselves. They can't do it all for us. We've got to do some stuff ourselves. And I think it's very, very useful to have faith in the goodness of life and in grace. There is grace. We call it God's grace, but it's grace. It is grace is defined in the dictionary as unearned good fortune, support, and provision. In other words, the universe is supportive of us. The universe is supportive of us. Life is supportive of us. We've all had these experiences when good things have happened that we haven't made happen. We didn't know they were going to happen, but they just happened. And what we needed was there, almost in a miraculous way, at the right time, in the right form. And that's grace. Life is supportive of us. And even the yogis say that the final liberation, the final awakening, the final spiritual awakening is due to grace. Meaning, we do our part to clarify our awareness and calm the mind, do everything we can up to a certain point, and there's still a little residue of mistaken self-identity. Well, as long as we are operating from that viewpoint of mistaken self-identity, we can't liberate ourselves. You can't get rid of of a mistaken idea of yourself. You can let it go, but you can't forcibly get rid of it. And that's the key. When you get to the stage of almost full awakening, almost liberation, you give up. And the yogis say, and in other traditions too, other mystical traditions, Buddhism and so on, they say, almost at the very end, you renounce, you let go of even your desire for liberation. Because the existence of desire for it, of wanting it, is an indication that you aren't yet conscious of having it. So it's very delicate. You don't want to give up before you get to that stage. Just when you're starting out and you're having difficulty meditating, or one darn thing after another pops up in your life and makes you uncomfortable, you don't want to say, I give up, it's up to God now. Well, if you gave up completely in the right way, that might work. But it's the giving up of this illusional or mistaken sense of self-identity. It's that letting that go. that allows our innate essence to blossom and be and be actualized, be fully evident. So we get to that stage of almost there, and then surrender and let go. Just let go and stay conscious, stay alert, and see what happens. So I emphasize daily meditation practice, not practicing every now and then when we just feel like it, when we're in the mood, but daily meditation practice, best if possible at the same time every day, so you have that habit. Look forward to it, and when you look forward to doing something, you do it with more intention, don't you? It's easier then to disregard all the mundane stuff and get right to it if it's part of your daily routine. In the morning at 5 o'clock to 6, I meditate, or whatever time you schedule. I sit here and I do this every day. And then there's no fooling around, no conflict. This is what I do every day, making allowances for occasional interruptions of schedule if you have to travel or there's a family emergency or something. But otherwise, be there, show up, be on time, and pay attention to what you're doing. Do it consciously, alert, fully alert with it. And when you're done. Then live consciously, appropriately, correctly, and so on. We say righteously, but live in the right way, you know. Natural life, eat good food, have a balance of rest and activity, be nice to people, be kind, be compassionate, attend to your duties in a responsible manner, pay your bills on time, you know, the basic stuff. Just do it. And appropriately. And at the same time, while you're doing your duties, while you're involved in regular activities, you can also be aware inwardly of your true nature and relationship with the infinite. And you don't have to put on a pious demeanor. Please don't, but you don't have to act spiritual or let the world know that I am on a spiritual path. Just be okay. Just be okay. Live your life in a wholesome, practical, realistic, honest, effective way, and meditate every day. Meditate every day in the right way.